So what project have you had kind of seated in your mind for some while now that you haven't been putting your attention to, and that you've kind of pushed off and out of sight? You know, we're looking at a time period right now where it could be a really good time to take advantage of the energy that's going to be coming in as a way to actually accomplish that project. Now, in our reading for this week, we have a lot of fire energy. Out of the 5 cards, 3 of them are in the wands, and then we also have the major arcana of the Emperor and 1 pentacle. So a lot of the energy that the cards today are speaking up about is the energy of Mars moving into this area of Virgo over the next couple of days. So we've had Mars and Venus in Leo, and they've been in this area where we have these two opposite energies, where it can bring a lot of struggle, and that is showing up in our card reading for today. And yet, you know, that struggle is in a lot of ways distracting from the thing that we know we need to do and that we've had in our mind to do, that we've kind of just set off to the side. Now, the opening card that we have for today is the 2 of Wands, and we see that this person is standing out on a balcony with 1 wand in their hand, as if they're, you know, excited to go into this new venture. And yet right behind them, there's a 2nd wand, and the 2nd wand is bolted to the wall. So in a lot of ways, it's bringing up this idea that there's some aspect of our will that feels tied down and not free to really put our energy and effort towards that which we're called to. And often that is because there's something we need to take care of, or something that's just kind of been pushed out of sight, out of mind. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be taken care of. And consider that you won't necessarily have the freedom to move your energy in this direction that you feel called to until you take care of this thing. So it is really practical to, you know, combat that list that you have, or at least the things that you have that have been just like sitting there, and bring it in front of you and take a look at it. Now, the challenge that's showing up this week is the 5 of Wands. Now, this is a challenge. We see 5 people, each with their own wand, and they are engaged in some kind of struggle or some kind of battle or combativeness. Now, showing up as our challenge, this is really revealing that there is some kind of strife that we've been working out. And it might be something that we're doing mostly internally, and yet it's like a battle of our wills against each other, right? Like one aspect of your will really wants to accomplish one thing, whereas another aspect of your will is going in a different direction, perhaps. And this also could be speaking to actual situations in your life that you are struggling with. Now, 5s, whenever they show up, are ultimately reminding us that we have a choice in how we engage in the situation, right? Like, we can look at the struggles that we have in our life as something like, you know, the fated universe is beating us down and everything is hard, or we can look at struggles that show up in our life as a way of calling us to engage in a new way, and calling us to respond and interact in a new way, because the challenge is bringing something to the surface. And consider, right, that like we become more of ourselves as we move through challenges and as we overcome challenges. And so I remind you that challenges come into your life not as like a fated karmic punishment, but more so that you can move closer to what you actually want, because we do get complacent in situations. And so challenges arise to move us closer to that thing that we actually feel like we need to do. Now, the way that we're going to get through the challenge came in by way of the Emperor. And this is another fiery energy because it's governed by Aries and the sign of Mars, and the planet of Mars. And so we have this overflowing energetic of fire in our reading today, which is a symbol of our will and how we apply our own will in life. And so this is what's on the table this week of what we're working with. And what's so interesting when you consider the Emperor here is that the Mars energy, which governs the Emperor and governs Aries ultimately, is shifting into the sign of Virgo in the next couple of days. And it's been in the sign of Leo with Venus for a little while now. They've been kind of traveling together at close degree. Now Venus is getting ready to go retrograde, so it's going to be in Leo for several months, and we will be revisiting this situation that we've been struggling with. And so consider that when the Emperor shows up, this is someone who brings order to chaos. This is someone who's like the warrior that goes out on the battlefield and sees what needs to be done. It sees what's the most practical use of their effort. And they look at things from a higher perspective, not in a, I am above you kind of perspective, but, in order to see what's going on the battlefield, you have to stand at a higher point where you can have a better view. And so what in us needs to maybe take a different vantage point of this situation that we've been struggling with, or even the current struggle that we are dealing with right now. That is something that the Emperor is asking us to do, and not in a necessarily polite way, right? Because whenever major arcana show up, it's speaking to some kind of life lesson or some kind of work that we are needing to face and work with in order to kind of go to the next level. Now, the Mars energy going into Virgo is an engaging energy. And considering that we all have Virgo in our chart, it is going to be in some house within your natal chart, which is going to give some kind of context to where you are feeling the sense to engage, because Mars has that initiatory energy to it, right? Like it gets things going, it gets things moving because it is the planet Mars. So Virgo as a sign is the sign of practicality. It's also the sign of our daily health routines. It's the sign of, how we are practical with our minds, and it can often be seen as self-critical, but having Mars go into Virgo is this energy of, okay, it's time to get this thing done. And depending on where Virgo is in your chart, it will be putting that energy there. And so this is what we're kind of stepping into this week. Now, the other aspect of the Emperor, which I want to bring up as well, is that the Emperor is also speaking to the sign of Aries, and we have Chiron in Aries right now. Chiron is the energetic of the wounded healer. And so wherever Aries is in your chart, it's kind of lending this hint that there's something there that we need to bring order to, right? If it's in your, first house, it might be that you need to bring order to like something that you do with your body, some kind of like health routine or some way that you take care of your body, because that's where this Chiron energy is in your first house versus your second house, which could be some area of your finances and your income and like the money that you earn, versus the third house, which is our communications house, or the fourth house, which is our home and our relationships with motherhood. Our fifth house is our relationships with children and our creativity, all the way around, to the 12th house. Each of these houses are going to represent a certain area of your life. And so where Chiron is right now, it's like bringing some attention to it for us to be able to bring a healing to some kind of wound that we haven't wanted to work with yet, or maybe we haven't been able to work with yet. Now, the ultimate outcome is another reminder to me that we need to kind of rise above the situation that we've been struggling with and look at it in a new way, right? We have the ultimate outcome coming in by the Page of Wands, which is the seeker, and it's related to Sagittarius and the one who basically looks to something higher for help. And there could be some kind of aspect of help to your situation that is going to bring some kind of resolve to the scenario. But ultimately, the clarity came through by the Three of Pentacles. So to me, when I consider the first card, which was those two wands, and that we have all of this fire energy showing up, and the final card being the Three of Pentacles, it's really pointing to that vision, right, that you've been putting off to the side and maybe you haven't been able to give your full attention to because of this struggle that you've been dealing with in some kind of form. And so having Mars move into the sign of Virgo, it's initiating this project that's been a vision for a really long time. Now, you know, consider, right, that Mars is going to be in Virgo and that we have Saturn in the opposite sign of Pisces. And so Pisces energy is kind of an open-ended energy, and having Saturn there is having a sense of responsibility and accountability brought to that space. And it's in retrograde right now. And then we have Mars, which is going to be at a 180-degree angle to that. Simultaneously, right, we have Jupiter in a trine to Mars over in Taurus. And so we have this help in a lot of ways in these earth energies in the system that are bringing a sense of groundedness and practicalness to things that have been really shifting and moving around a lot. And so having Mars go into this space is like dedicating yourself to your vision, dedicating yourself to that thing that you want to build, because this is the master craftsman. This is the person who can show people what they've been envisioning and actually bring it to form. And it's hard to bring things to form if you are constantly in a battle with your own self around where to put your energy and your effort. It's time to anchor it in. And I think that's really what Mars is getting us to do, is it makes this shift into the sign of Virgo. If you are interested in getting your chart looked at, send me an email at rootsofalchemy@gmail.com, or you're also welcome to pre-purchase a reading, and I can do a Zoom reading for you and record it for you, or you can do a live Zoom reading as well. Or if you're in, you know, the North Fork Valley area, we can do a live reading in person. So just reach out to me through email, or you can also check out my wares and arts and other offerings on my website, rootsofalchemy.com. I send you a good wish and a lot of love, and I will see you again soon. Bye.